Check this out, boys and girls. So I started working on this reconfiguration of my Turbo K20, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to sort of share what I'm doing and kind of document the process, so at least I have something to look back on and pinpoint exactly where it all went wrong in the future. And basically, for the uninitiated, what you're looking at is a K20, so that's a 2-liter 4-cylinder, and a GT35, or maybe it's a 28. I don't know, some sort of a ceramic ball bearing clone of a Garrett. And so it's kind of half disassembled the way you're looking at it. If I was thinking, I would have probably done some documentation of it when it was fully undisassembled, fully together. But anyway, here we are. Not too difficult to imagine. So basically, the problem that I was having is the car was blowing smoke like crazy. So it was just blowing tons and tons of smoke out of the exhaust, which I had assumed was coming from oil leakage within the turbo, which was a pretty safe assumption, and it remains as such. And I read around. I couldn't really figure out what the deal was. I was thinking maybe it was normal, maybe it wasn't. And I can't remember. I drove this car around how many times feeling weird from all the fumes and shit. Maybe that's why I am the way I am today. Anyway, so I kind of looked around and I kind of figured out, like, hey, this is... I'm thinking the cause is the oil seal in the back of the turbine. That is, I'm sort of holding the camera and the light at the same time. That is a seal in the back of the turbine here. And so the way that this was configured when I first built it, right, it was this manifold back here, and you kind of look in here, and this pipe isn't connected, but even if it was, there would be fucking no goddamn clearance hardly at all. But basically, you can kind of see that this guy is disconnected, and really this manifold here was causing the turbo to be not. Let's see if I can get my hand in the shot. The turbo was not level; it was like this, and my suspicion is that these turbine seals aren't really so. They're not really seals as such, or not ones that can keep oil that's sort of resting against it. So basically, when it's tilted like this, as it had been, you can kind of see the way that this flange is tilted backwards. That's how it was keeping that's how the whole turbo was tilted. And so my suspicion is that although some oil, much of the oil was draining straight down into the drain, which you can, that brush is just in there to prop it up, and I'll explain that in a minute. But that oil wants to drain straight down, and when it's tilted, it was draining back out of the outlet of the exhaust. You can kind of see in there, it's all oily. Oh, black gold. And so, sort of long story short, or really kind of a short story, even shorter, I was thinking, I gotta level that turbo out. So I gotta make it, reorient the positioning so that it's sitting level, so that oil doesn't have so much a tendency to sort of, slosh against the rear seal and leak out of it, and it's more likely to drain down the bottom like it's supposed to be. And it kind of makes sense, even if you didn't know that, which I sort of almost don't. Even if you didn't know that, any commercial or industrial application or automotive application of a turbo like this, they're always level. They're never like this. They're never tilted the way that I had mine. So I don't know why the hell it took me. I mean, it's just much of my assembly and farting around with this car is really just an exercise in juvenile nonsense. But I don't. So you kind of find stuff like that out. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people running this manifold, the exact same manifold, and very similar ones in a very similar manner. So maybe the turbo seals are just better. Anyway, what had happened recently was, well, actually, it's sort of unrelated, but kind of motivated me to do some stuff. Is this oil line got clogged up and failed, and then after it got clogged, it sprung a leak, and this whole affair caught fire, as you can kind of see. I caught it before it got too out of hand. But so I was going to do some repairs on that and decided, you know what, I need to sort this out. I need to fix this. So basically what I've done, or what I am doing, is, you know, disconnect all the exhaust bits from the turbo. Then I kind of position the turbo where I thought it would be. So level it out and position it where I think it can be happy to live. And also that'll give me, you can see it's much higher, and that'll give me position so I have a little bit more room, because as you can see, if you didn't already know, boys and girls, this is tight as fuck, and there's just no fucking room for hardly any componentry, especially back there. I mean, that's a fucking nightmare. And it's, maybe I'll talk about that further in a minute. But basically, the idea is I'll build my own manifold. So I ordered a bunch of steel tubing. I'm using inch and a half Schedule 40 stainless tubing, and I just bought this flange. What do you call it? Shit, there's a word for it. It'll come to me, but it isn't right now. Collector. Yeah, collector. So I don't really, right now, I don't have the capability to make those cuts very well, so I just bought this fucker on eBay. Is it going to work? Probably, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. It was only like $50, which in Joe Biden's print up all the money you need ever world is like nothing now. Whatever money you have in the bank is basically, even if it's a lot, it doesn't really matter anymore. Anyway, the idea was position that more or less where I want it. Then I sort of built this rig, which is just a couple of pieces of, I think it's 10 gauge plate steel, and so that I can position the turbo where I want it, and I have holes in here to hold it. Then I have another engine, you know, as you do. Have another engine that I can build the new manifold on, right? So it'd be very difficult to do it in the car, damn near impossible in this situation. But also I need to know where in space this flange is going to end up going, right? So this flange bolts up to the other side of this guy, sort of on this side, right? Or I should, if you can't see, sort of on this side. I can't fit it back there, but you see what I'm saying. So I need to know where this needs to be in space. So I just built this up. Then I can take this off of this engine, take it to my other mock-up engine, and have those basically I can have that flange referenced in space. Not only referenced, but being physically held in space. Then I can sort of build up that manifold, or at least that's the plan. So I think that's hopefully going to solve my turbo leakage problems, which is basically has made this car fucking undrivable. I had thought that it had sort of fixed itself, you know, like sometimes how cars do. when it turned out that this line had actually just clogged and it wasn't supplying any oil at all to the turbo. And in case you didn't already know, boys and girls, turbos need oil, or else they don't work. But it looks like, however long I had driven this with no fucking oil at all, it looks like, let's see, it looks like it may have survived. I don't know. We'll see. If I need to buy another one, it only costs money, which isn't worth anything anyway. So what's the big deal? Until I start running out of it, but not yet. Anyway, shit. And then I got to figure out what to do with this whole affair back here. I got to get the exhaust out of there somehow, and it's fucking mighty tight. I can't even fit this tiny camera back in there. It's such a fucking tight bastard. But that's a 3-inch V-band flange off the back of that. Anyway, so I'll figure that out, and I'll have to make some adjustments to this charge air pipe. But yeah, so I'll probably, I'll either do time lapse or whatever. And I thought it'd be fun to sort of document the experience and the fuck ups and how all that how this turns out, or how it doesn't turn out. There's a handful of things I got to fix in addition to that, but it's kind of basically, this car, at least in its current form, has basically been a sort of mock-up and troubleshooting. Is try this, try that, see how that works, and if it doesn't, tear it down and try it again. And that's kind of a fun thing to do. And yeah, you can see it's pretty janky. There's like plugs and connectors that don't go to anything and shit, and like coiled up wires that don't go anywhere. And I kind of like that. I think that kind of thing just does it for me. I dig it. Okay, so here's a look at our mock-up engine. We're in the kitchen, as you can see. Oh, John, what the fuck? How come you have an engine in the kitchen? Yeah, well, where the fuck do you keep your engine? In the bedroom, I suppose? Fucking perverts. It's actually a better engine. This is a K20A2 out of an 03 RSX Type S. It's kind of an interesting story, actually. But I'll get into that later. Maybe. Fuck it, I'll get into it now. I saw somebody advertising what looked to be a pretty rough 03 RSX Type S. Called them up, and there's an ad on Craigslist. Did I already say that? I've had a few. Called him up, and the dude was in Baltimore. Young kid going to school. I think it was his first car. Anyway, he said it runs and drives, but it was pretty dinged up and rusted out. So, but I got him down to, I think I paid $22,250 for this car, and it was like 150,000 miles or 100,000 miles, or I don't know. Turns out the engine had been swapped or replaced, which it was actually not a very good engine replacement. I'm not very pleased with that. But everything else with the engine seems to be good. Compression's good. It seems like it's a good engine. I opened up the valve cover, as you might have guessed. Looks pretty clean and tidy under there. The motor seems good. Runs good. Drove the car. Met the kid in Baltimore, and turns out it's kind of funny because he was from like the Philippines or Indonesia or something, maybe Malaysia, something like that. And he had spent time working in my hometown in Pennsylvania, and wound up meeting him in a sketch gas station in Baltimore. Picked up the car, drove it home, and stripped all the parts. I probably made back my $2,200 in all the parts I didn't care for, and then snagged the engine, transmission, ECU, all the other goodies that all you Honda files probably know about. Anyway, so the same sort of bracket that you saw in the car, I had to cut it and modify it because I needed to fit this. This collector didn't fit with the way I had it before. But basically have that set up, have this collector flange, excuse me, arranged in the orientation that it would be in the car by way of this bracket. So basically, and I've already sort of started to lay things out, and I haven't done this before, so I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure that there isn't like a foolproof method. That is, it's not as though I could. It's not as though I'm laying it out in CAD and can just cut the parts out, weld them together, and boom, it fits. I mean, you could do that. I'm fairly confident that that might be more difficult. Well, the only difficulty would be is getting to this point. If you could get to this point and get to it in CAD and have all this in CAD, then yeah, that'd be way easier. But that's kind of tricky. So I think it'll be a little bit easier the way I have it rigged up now. What a lot of guys can do is, instead of making a bracket that fits to the engine, they can fit it up in the car or whatever and make bracketry that fits to this flange. And you know, that will work too. It's kind of convenient because I have an engine just kind of sitting here. Anyway, so I bought this flange. I'm not really pleased with the quality of this flange. It's kind of, I think it's, I want to say 3/8. It's stainless. I'm making the whole thing out of stainless. Basically, I mean, I'm not intending for my welds to look all that great, but I kind of want to minimize corrosion and maximize the life of this thing. Maybe that's not a reasonable expectation, but whatever. The flange was like, for some reason, they're hard to find at the moment. This was like 70 or 80. I want to say it was like $80. Dang, for that, you know, shittily cut, cheap fucking flange. I'm kind of not. I'm not real happy with that. Anyway, so I'm working. These are pretty rough, and I don't have the proper saw to cut these very well. So I'm getting really good at cutting with a cutoff blade on an angle grinder. I'm pretty damn good at that. So I can make a fairly decent cut. But, I'll try to sort of hold this with my armpit so you can kind of see my process. Let's see if I can get this in the shot. But basically, I'm going to kind of go along, and I want to, as you can see, the clearance between the valve cover and this collector, that's kind of leaves a bit to be desired in terms of non-shittiness. So kind of doing stuff like, you know, set that up there and kind of arrange where I think that wants to be, kind of thing, and kind of estimate an eyeball. It's like, okay, I need a straight bit there, and I need another straight bit there, and that'll do that, and then sort of tack it, sort of build it up, tack it. Invariably, I'm going to have to cut it apart and break it down and do it over again. But I can't really see that there's a better way to do that, or at least an easier or faster way. So that's kind of the process. You can kind of see I tack these guys in place just to kind of orient them where I think they want to go. For these guys, I have some more of them, and I'll step them out further so that they can go back around, and basically come away further from the block and go around. And these are kind of oval shaped, so I have a press. Likely what I'll do, I measured these before and kind of guesstimated it. That's what I'd be able to do, is once I'm fairly confident that this is the sort of angle or direction or orientation that these elbows want to be in, then I have a press and I can squish them, and that it'll get them close enough to where I'll be able to run a bead around the perimeter of that flange, port flange, whatever. So yeah, I think that'll work out well, and I'll check in with the next development. See ya.